start recording. So there's your no second warning. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Mike, one of your co-hosts. The other one is not here today. With Multifamily Unplugged, Saturday morning, your unpredictable radio station. Glad that you're here this morning. Tune in, go wake somebody up. Hey, listen, good news, bad news, call it whatever you want. My co-host is not here. He's on vacation with his family in Florida, and they are having a great time. So he called this morning and said, hey, do you really need me? And I said, no. I said, I think my guest and I can do this together. But hey, remember, we are live on Facebook, we're live on Clubhouse, and we're live on Zoom. I'm joined today with Bethany Smith, and we are going to introduce her in a minute. First, I just want to do some housekeeping things. Like I said, go wake somebody up if you know that they need to be here, or grab a cup of coffee and sit back, because we don't know where this will go this morning. Typical, usual, where we always find a rabbit hole to get into and find it some difficult way to not get out. So, hey, so a favor that I'd like to ask, please make sure that you're following us on LinkedIn and Instagram and Clubhouse. If you are watching this on video, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We could appreciate the reviews, please, and the love. Thanks. Hey, good news this week. We got our podcast posted on Google. So we are now on that channel, podcast-wise. We're My Core Intentions, which is just awesome. So I want to just give a big round of applause to Joel, my marketing guy, who has just really worked effortlessly on getting us on all of these platforms. So it's really great. So if you are looking for some good information, we're going to have some today. But beyond that, you can tune into Insider Secrets and My Core Intentions. And I'm trying to do too many things this morning, everybody. So bear with me. All right, great. Hey, let me introduce our guest. Let's get on with this. Bethany Smith joins us today. We're going to talk about multifamily. We're going to talk about mindset, and we are going to talk about being a female in the multifamily space. Hey, Bethany, thanks for being here today. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah, good. Hey, you know, this is typically pretty unpredictable on Saturday morning. The good news for you is that it's just you and I, so you never know what'll happen, but we always tend to wander down some rabbit holes. So who knows where this is going to go, but I'm just expecting we're going to have a little bit of fun this morning. So, Absolutely. Hey, here's what I'd like you to do, if you don't mind. Could you please just share with the listeners about your background, who you are, where you're from, and how you got in this crazy business?
Sure. So I grew up in Boise, Idaho. Boise, it's pronounced differently depending on who you're from. But grew up there, attended Boise State for a couple years in college. Met my husband, Nate, in a church youth group, actually. We were 15 or so. Long story short, we got married when we were both 22. And I dropped out of college to marry him and moved to South Georgia. So that was a little bit of a shift, and worked in. So for our first year of our marriage, we had bought a house together. We had house hacked using a VA loan. So got a house at a really good deal at the time. President Obama was doing like a first time home buyers credit. And so we took advantage of that, got like $8 or $9 grand, I think. And so bought this house. It was a foreclosure. It was a little rough. I worked that first year we were married, renovating the house. That was my focus, and it got our feet wet in real estate investing. Got really interested in real estate investing because we moved after about a year and rented that home out and kept it for about 8 years. So that kind of initially piqued our interest in investing. I worked for a few years in education as an English tutor, actually, and that was a great job for me because it moved with me. Being a military family, you go through a lot of moves typically, and for me and my husband, it was even more frequent than usual PCS schedule because he basically was going through flight training. So we moved a total of 8 times in 11 years. And we were on a schedule there for a while. We were always moving over the holidays. So it's like, this really sucks. We got to get out of this. But yeah, so I worked in education for a few years and then transitioned to real estate. I thought I wanted to be a realtor. But instead of getting my license and jumping in both feet, I wanted to work kind of like an apprentice role to a real estate team or realtor and see how I liked it. So that's what I did. I got a job as an executive assistant to a very busy realtor. She was doing 60 closings a year on her own. And so worked in that for another almost 4 years, and it was a wonderful experience. I eventually transitioned into more of like a director of operations role. So oversaw a team. We had a growing team and one of the top sales teams in Utah County in Utah. And so really great experience. We had a lot of investor clients and I really enjoyed working with those folks. And that got us even more interested in investing. And we had also acquired a property in Arkansas that basically functioned like a fourplex. It's a single family home, but it's kind of like corporate short-term housing for military, basically. And so it functioned like a fourplex, and we started to see the power of having multiple doors to rent out, and that it was more stable. Because like with our single family home, if that went empty for a month, it really hurt because that was mortgage payment, paying the utilities to keep those on and everything. However, with a property that's multi-doored, if you have one empty, well, you still have X amount of rooms that are, occupied and covering your mortgage. So I'm going to mute for a second and clear my throat. Give me just a second.
Yeah, sure. Hey, while you're doing that, when you come back, I want to ask you a question. So, we've covered a lot of ground already, but I want to ask you specifically about renting those rooms out to other military people. And first, let me say this. Hey, thanks for your service. I don't know if we should thank your husband for his service or if we should thank you for yours, because I would imagine that it's got to be equally as difficult for the husband as well as the wife to be in the service, move around, do all the things, or get deployed. But thanks to both you guys for all you do for us and for our country. So
absolutely, thank you, appreciate that.
So anyhow, back to the question though, is that a product niche? So like, when you look at multifamily, there's so many niches, right? There's student housing, medical housing, market rate rent, senior housing. Is that a product niche in itself?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we've not delved into it much further because it's a very limited market. There's only so many military folks. It's a very small, segment of the population. And then on top of that, it only works well if you're near like a training base where they're doing a lot of short-term training for folks, where they're having them in like 6 weeks on up to maybe 9 months. That's what ours is. And so it's people that are, so a permanent change of station is what it's usually called when you're picking up and moving and relocating to a new station. But if it's a short-term thing, they call it a TDY, a temporary tour, a temporary duty tour or something. I don't know. Can't remember the exact acronym. So it's like a short-term thing. So, the amount of bases that have like short-term training deals going on is pretty limited. So, yeah.
Interesting. So obviously that wouldn't work for somebody in boot camp, but it's other training, right? When they come back, like to do some computer technology or some type of
or flight training,
Okay.
or something like that. And if you're a newer military member, they're not going to let you live off base. So if you're newly enlisted, you have to have been in for a certain period of time or be an officer and be able to live off base.
Interesting. So one of the things that we want to kind of dive into, and I know I kind of cut you off. Did you have anything else you wanted to finish on your background or?
That basically brings us up to my transition into multifamily. So as I mentioned, I worked for that team in Utah for almost 4 years, and Nate and I really wanted me to, we really wanted me to kind of take the shift, quit that job completely and shift into multifamily full time. So that's what I did at the beginning of 2019. I don't advise that for everybody, but for us, it made a lot of sense. And so, yeah, delved into multifamily in 2019, went to a ton of events, networked a bunch, read a bunch of books, listened to as many podcasts as I could, just really immersed myself in that new space to learn it. Because I got the basic concept, just kind of the basics, but in terms of like underwriting and how to find deals and how like a syndication works and stuff like that. Did a lot of self-education.
Yeah, interesting. And so do you think that the transition from the residential side and working for a residential realtor made it easier for you to go into multifamily versus just starting from scratch, coming into the space? Or do you think that it mattered for you?
I
Did
think
you
it,
just,
no, yeah, definitely. It was a huge advantage for me. I'm somebody who likes I really like hands-on learning, and I'm a huge fan of the apprenticeship model where
yeah,
you can go learn in an environment and get compensated for your time, but you're building that skill and knowledge so that when you transition into it yourself full time, you kind of hit the ground running. You're not scrambling to try to make ends meet and pay bills and everything, plus learn this new venture and do that. So I like the apprenticeship on a lot. But yes, it did definitely help. It helped me learn the basics of, kind of what a renovation looks like, how basic numbers, should look for an investment, how to find deals, that sort of thing.
talk about that. When you say apprenticeship model, talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit. What, how does that work? How has that worked for you? What does that look like?
Yeah, so basically just I know we don't really have apprenticeships per se anymore, or we don't really call them that, but let's say you want to get into a new industry and learn a new skill, as opposed to just taking on all the learning yourself right away, go find a mentor and see how you can add value to them and get monetarily compensated for your time so that you're kind of getting paid to learn.
Yeah.
Us.
So did you find somebody in the multifamily space to work with as their apprentice, or did you dive right in on your own?
Pretty much dove right in on my own.
Okay.
Firstly, yep. Hmm.
See, I like that because that's how I am too, right? So I was a realtor. My story is I was in the general contracting business, decided that I hated that business and sold my company. I was just burnt out. I sold my company and I went into the real estate space. But in between, I took a year off and I house hacked. And
Hmm.
I house hacked two flats. And that was long before it really was popular. But
Mm.
I've always been of the opinion success leaves clues. And if you go to successful people and you pick their brain and you get in, you get help,
Hmm.
it can help you grow, right? And that's what
Hmm.
I did. So I went and talked to a realtor and he made a cassette tape for me that I just listened to over and over again and went into business. My first 8 months in the business, I sold 78 houses
Wow.
and went on, built a team, and then went in the apartment business. So it was like the transition. The apartment business, though, was something I knew I always wanted to be in.
Mm.
So, I know that, before the show, we talked a little bit about mindset. And I think that's so important, where your mind is at, what you're thinking about. Talk about that a little bit.
I think it's 90% of the struggle
Uh-huh.
is getting your mindset right in any new venture and any new, endeavor you're getting into, having your mindset in the right space. And what I mean by that is, you know, being a realist, but being positive, being upbeat, surrounding yourself with people that are forward thinking. They want to contribute. They want to give back to society. They want to be generous. They want to be successful. They want to help take care of their families and that sort of thing. Surrounding yourself with those people is so key. Finding a good mentor, taking care of yourself and your health and mental health too. I know that's kind of a buzzword right now, but as it should be, because it's such an important aspect of our lives and our overall health. And yeah, so mindset is very, very key. After I had quit my job and starting in 2019, I set a goal of trying to read a book a week. No,
Mm,
wait. Yeah, book a week. Boy, yeah. Sounds like a bunch, but I made to like 38 that year, I think. So I didn't quite hit the goal, but the amount of just, deluge of like personal habits. I started out with like personal habit type books, Atomic Habits, High Performance Habits, those kind of books that are just very kind of foundational. And then got into a lot of, business and personal development, leadership, sales, all that sort of thing. It made a
It's
huge
interesting.
difference.
That's a big endeavor, a book a week, right? So I've read about 1,500 books over 22, 23 years.
Nice.
And a book a week, though, that's a big number. So what were some of the books that you read?
I'll say I read them more slowly now because I want to like intake and process and ruminate on concepts. And I've picked up journaling too, which kind of helps me pick out key points. And so if there's some concept that I want to really mentally digest, I'll journal it out and kind of give like a little commentary on it too. I never used to journal. Like, why would you? Anyway.
That's a big thing, though. I talk to people about that all the time. I say journaling is really important because I think that, first of all, if you journal your gratitude, I'm a big believer in gratitude journaling, right? What are the 3 or 5 things every day that you're grateful for? If it's as crazy as, a warm cup of coffee or the birds chirping in the tree, right?
Yep.
Just to start your day on that foot. But journaling, what your intentions are. Where do you want to go? What are you trying to accomplish? If you have to, and I know you hate this subject, but if you want to underwrite a deal today, what do you have to learn? What do you have to go learn in order to do that, right? So I promised you I wouldn't say that word, but oh well.
I don't hate it. It's not my forte.
No, I get it. I'm just teasing you.
Math was not my strongest subject growing up.
But it's interesting. Hey, let me reset the room real quick. Hey, everybody, it is Mike, one of your co-hosts with Saturday Morning Multifamily Unplugged. We're live on Clubhouse, live on Facebook, and live on Zoom. Unfortunately, my co-host Moose is not here this week. He's on vacation with his family, enjoying himself, but I am joined by Bethany Smith, and we are talking multifamily and mindset. It's really been a great morning, and I am looking forward to where this show is going to go this morning. Hey, good morning, Angel. Good to see you. Larry.
Hey, Angel.
Nice to see everybody out this morning. Like I said, go wake somebody up. Edward out on Clubhouse. Michael, good to see you. Thanks for being here this morning. Hey, should we have Angel join us?
Sure.
Okay. It's a quiet morning, I think because it's a holiday.
Hi.
Hey,
That's right.
Angel. Front and center. How's it going?
Look a little rough. I just took a shower.
Welcome.
Wow.
It's all right. It's still early. You look beautiful.
Yeah. So listen, hey, this brings up a great question, right? So, Bethany, before we went live, you were saying how being a female in this space, in the multifamily space, it could be difficult, maybe is difficult. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, and maybe Angel's got something to say around that as well.
Sure. Yeah, I think I wouldn't necessarily say it's difficult, it's different. So I think in any new venture, we're taking on, we have to get comfortable with the fact that we might be uncomfortable at a certain point. And so, if you're able to kind of embrace that and roll with it, then, you're going to be that much more confident and kind of powerful in that role. So, there's not many women in the space. And that's true of a lot of different industries. And so it's just kind of a different nuance, but realizing that, going into it and knowing your unique skill set and what you bring to the table and being confident in that is gonna portray itself. The most confident person in the room wins, basically.
So how much of that goes back to mindset? And I like that you said 90% mindset. That's a big deal, right? We can learn all this stuff, and you're saying just the education piece is 10%.
Well, I'd say it's so foundational. So if you don't have that piece right, then what comes after is going to be a struggle. So getting your mindset in the right place, and then getting so basic concepts. Work hard, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Surround yourself with people that are at the level you want to be at. That's an uncomfortable scenario in and of itself. There's a quote from, like, I think it's Jesse Itzler or Grant Cardone. If there's no seat at the table for you, serve water to get in the room and make a seat at the table, eventually. So you may have to start at a disadvantage and being, maybe the grunt, or doing the work nobody else wants to do, and that sort of thing. But seeing the long-term vision, like, hey, I do want to be in this space. I deserve to be in this space. My head's in the right space. I'm a person of contribution. I want to give back. Like, if you approach it from the right angle, then you'll be successful. So I believe mindset is just really, really key, and foundational. Even more so than that, to me, is your faith. So it all comes back to what's your worldview. And so, depending on what your worldview is, and just how you think of yourself and how you think of others, and it's so foundational.
So we were talking about that a few minutes ago, about what you do to get your mindset right. And you were saying journaling and continually putting good stuff in through reading, and, slowing down with your reading. Now, what else do you do for your mindset? What if you wake up on a day and you just don't feel like, being there or doing what you need to do?
Mm-hmm.
How do you work through that?
I think the power, it'll come back to the strength of your routine. So, what regular habits do you have? So 2 books that I read on that topic that were super helpful was Atomic Habits, and then also High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard. The first one was by James Clear. That's Atomic Habits. And then High Performance Habits is by Brendan Burchard. Those 2 books were really, really helpful to me, to just, basic life skill kind of success habits. Get up at a good time every day. It doesn't mean you have to get up at 4 a.m., the crack of dawn. If you're more of a night person, but get up at a reasonable time every day. Don't fluctuate the time that you get up too widely, except for, Sundays or whatnot. But for me, if I get up within a certain, like between 5:30 and 6:30, that's when I feel my best, and I can control. One of our business mentors, Ed Milet, talks about the power of controlling the first 45 minutes of your day and the last 45 minutes of your day. So that means don't look at your phone. Don't start taking in all this, stress and maybe negativity from, social media or the news or your email account. You're just gonna, so that's very key. And getting your head in the right space where you're putting good stuff in, putting good stuff in. So you're reading books, maybe you're listening to a podcast, maybe you're, for me, I read the Bible first thing, and I read a personal development book, and I journal a little bit. So in the first 45 minutes of my day, I'm in total control. So whatever happens during the day, stressful things may come up, may have a difficult confrontation, may have a stressful, a speaking event or something. But I know that my day is kind of bookend. And then at the end of the day, too, wind down, cut off screens, cut off, stuff that you're taking in, news, TV, stuff like that, and maybe read again, go for a walk, get a little decompression time, and, self-care and all that good stuff, so that you begin and end on a good note.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer of that beginning of the day piece, right? Where you get up, and I love that you spend time in scripture right away. And that's what I do. I get up, I'm in the Bible, I go to the gym, I work out. And I can't say that I don't check my social media or my email right away. I don't right away, but I do, early on. But
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to really kind of push that off a little bit further through the day. But
Sure. Yeah.
yeah. But what time do you get up in the morning? And then what time do you go to bed at night?
Usually between 5, as I said, it'll fluctuate, but between 5:30 and 6:30.
Okay.
And going to bed usually around 10.
Okay.
I like a good amount of sleep. I like 7 to 8 hours if I can.
Hey, I just wanted, Angel, do you have anything you want to chime in on or anything you want to ask Bethany or?
I really like the idea of like taking control of the beginning and ending of your day. I definitely have control over the end of my day, but our mornings are crazy. We're
Mhm.
doing Google Meets, making sure the kids are on the computers for school, and
Mhm.
just my mornings are dictated, and I would need to wake up earlier, and I don't get up till about 7.
Kids are definitely a nuance there. I do not have kids, so that's a disclaimer.
Well, and we've chosen to keep our kids remote. In Texas, they went back face to face at the beginning of the year, and we kept our kindergartner home. I let the 13-year-old go for one grading period, and then she came home. And then our son has profound autism, so he's been doing therapy throughout, but he's not going to school. He's only going to his therapy.
Mhm.
So it's just a different year. Well, another different year.
Well, it is crazy.
Absolutely. That's one way to put it. Different.
Yeah. So Bethany, talk about, are you, you're obviously a general partner on some deals,
Mhm.
and do you have some limited partner holdings as well?
Yes. Mhm.
So can you talk about how many units you own and
Mhm.
assets under management and that?
Yeah. So we're limited partners on a portfolio in the Southeast, Texas and Florida. GPs on a deal in Southern Arizona, and it's about 36 units. And then, as I mentioned, we have that property in Arkansas still that kind of functions like a fourplex, but like corporate housing.
Yeah, yeah. And who manages that for you while from a distance? Do you guys manage your own stuff or do you have third parties?
Third party management.
Okay.
Third party management. Yeah, definitely saw early on. So that single family home I had mentioned that we bought when my husband and I were first married, we had to use third party. We were just, too busy with what we were doing, and we didn't want to take on that, trying to learn that whole deal, how to manage a property remotely. But really, we didn't want to have to face to face manage tenants. We wanted to have a buffer, like a neutral party, the third party that's doing that. But we saw early on that the opportunity to scale was going to be a lot more viable if we had third party management, where you can only do so much in the day, and so having a partner in that role is really key to be able to scale.
Yeah, interesting. Hey, let me reset the room real quick again.
Mhm.
If you are just joining us this morning, we are live on Clubhouse, live on Facebook, and on Zoom. This is Multifamily Unplugged, your Saturday morning raw, unscripted radio show. And I'm joined this morning by Angel Williams as a special guest, but our guest is Bethany Smith. And I'm glad that you're here today. Thanks for joining in. If you have any comments or questions, please drop them in the chat and we will get Bethany to answer those for you. And otherwise, just enjoy the show. Thanks for being here. So, so Bethany, what are your goals? What do you see yourself accomplishing here over the balance of the year? Or, I always like to ask people, where do you see yourself in 3 years, 5 years?
Yeah. So one other aspect that not mentioned aside from multifamily is my husband and I have a financial services company together,
Oh.
and we started that back in 2019 as well. So we run that together. We basically educate people on how money works. We help with strategies, reducing debt, retirement strategies, implementing proper protection, that sort of thing. We actually have a free class at 10 Pacific, so that's 1 p.m. Eastern. On how money works. This is a great event. Anybody wants to join that, it's on our Facebook profiles. But we're going to be teaching concepts out of this book and doing some giveaways of this book. It's really awesome content for like middle schoolers on up. Just teaching basic concepts that honestly are not widely taught in schools. How taxes work and tax impact, concept of compound interest, how banks function and use the money that we put in them and that sort of thing. So we're really big on financial education. And so we run that company together, and that's very much our symbiotic business to multifamily investing, so that there's like a cash flow generating business that you can invest in multifamily. And so We've seen that concept, work really well for friends and partners of ours. And so that's really our main focus, honestly. And we have a goal this year of, we have our own virtual agency and helping 6 of our agents open their own virtual agencies or brick and mortar. But with COVID, we've seen the industry pivot in a big way to where, a brick and mortar office is not essential anymore. You can really do everything out of a home office, and maybe you choose to have a physical office, but it's not like required. So anyway, so that's our goal for that business. And then 2 additional multifamily properties this year. So we want to close on 2 additional by the end of 2021.
The conversation around virtual office or people going back into the office is an interesting conversation. I had lunch with a friend of mine this past week, and we were talking about just in Chicago alone, it's a 5-year absorption rate for the office space. So if nothing changes, it would take 5 years to rent all of the office space that's available right now.
Wow.
What are people going to do? So I like this conversation, right? What's the retrofit for this? When you go into an urban area, and not even necessarily an urban area, right? You could be anywhere, but what's the retrofit for that, 8-story, 10-story, 20-story office building that, typically was hustle and bustle, but now people are saying, hey, I like working at home. I'm not going back to the office, right? You kind of even alluded to that and talking about being virtual, having these virtual offices. I kind of like it, right? Why do you want to go back into an office? You've got Zoom now. Everybody can talk to each other. You can do meetings online, run a whiteboard. Do you really need to even go back in the office? So it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, we can absolutely do everything from home, and we do, I would say, the majority from home, but there's something about getting into a physical office that's outside of your home. I think it comes back to just changing your environment. So maybe it's not a office space. Maybe it's I don't know, it's an extra room at church that nobody's using, or it's, some, I don't know, community center type thing. So it doesn't have to be like an office per se, but changing your environment is huge. It just kind of changes your mindset a little bit, changes your energy level. Take yourself more seriously. I know we take ourselves just more seriously. You're putting on office clothes and going to a different place,
Right.
and for me, it's huge to see other people, having that kind of office camaraderie. So we had during COVID like a quarantine, I think they call it, where you have a small group of core people that you see every day on the regular, and so you're not getting exposure to a massive amount of people, but it's like you're with them every day. And that's what we did during COVID. We were launching that new company and spending a lot of time with a handful of people, but it was really key to our energy level, our momentum, our mental health, just to kind of still have that community aspect. So for me, that's really powerful. We'll always have an office space. I think that's still important. And like with our business model, we're having a lot of people in the office too. Once we get back to meeting, where we'll have we have 2 weekly team trainings and stuff like that. Now going forward, they're going to be more of a hybrid model. I think we've all seen that hybrid is probably here to stay in a lot of ways, where you're doing, the live in-person feature. Like if all 3 of us were together at your home mic in Chicago or something, there'd be that, but then we'd still probably be streaming out and doing, a clubhouse and that sort of thing. So there's going to be a hybrid component to that for sure, I think.
Hey, you're always welcome here. Anybody,
Okay.
always.
Thank you.
Don't bring a mask though.
Okay. I'll wash my
Hey,
hands.
your financial services model or company, is that designed, you mentioned middle schoolers. So is that designed more for education for children, or is it for everybody across the board?
No, for everybody across the board. Really, this particular class that we're putting on this morning, our workshop is great for young adults to come and learn these concepts. It's, fun, kind of entertaining graphics and stuff like that, and simple concepts that they can understand. But
yeah, you're familiar with Zig Ziglar?
yes.
He for years, I can remember him saying for years how it's so important and it's not taught in school, the financial literacy,
Right.
right? That people just don't get the basics. And when I was really involved with a non-for-profit
Mm-hmm.
some years back, and we helped homelessness. There were, homelessness in this country is a huge epidemic, right?
Right.
But you have people that just they don't even know the basics of how to balance a checkbook, or
Mm-hmm.
because of what's happened in their life and the displacement around them, to learn those basics again is really it's really a process. So we had there was this organization that we were partnered with that would partner with a corporate sponsor that funded it, and then a church sponsor that taught lessons that
Mm-hmm.
were specifically laid out, everything from um, balancing a checkbook to how to save, just the simple principles like 10-10-80, right? And then how to work with attorneys and things like that. Interesting process. So
Mm-hmm.
my
Yep.
hat's off to you. I think that is a great effort and a great business. Hey, I love the sign over your right shoulder. Success is your duty, obligation, and responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like from your mindset that you really live that out, don't you?
Love or hate Grant Cardone. He's got some good one-liners.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, the financial literacy my husband and I are really passionate about because I mentioned our military background, and we've seen how a lot of military folks are put at a real disadvantage in many ways with their finances, and told to do certain things with their money that aren't really beneficial for them. Or like in my husband's case, for example, these young kids that enlist and then they go, have a deployment or something. They come back, they have a large lump sum of tax-free money, and they get back and they go blow it on a 69 Camaro like my husband did.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing except lost money on it. It was fun while it lasted, but it didn't last very long. So anyway, so yeah, so
Yeah.
helping them, or like, the concept of, not to be too divisive, but loading yourself up with an insane amount of college debt, when you're trying to start life and maybe you're getting married, having a family too, and taking all that on, it just doesn't really set people up for success. So,
Hey, I do appreciate a lot of what Grant Cardone teaches. I think that, he does have a lot of great things to say. And I'm a Gary Vee fan as well, right?
okay.
And Gary Vee will tell you, he says, and I love this about him, he says, go buy a piece of investment real estate before you buy a house to live in. Go buy two pieces of investment real estate before you go buy a car. And I think that that type of thinking, that goes back to mindset, right? There's so many things around mindset that we could think about. But hey, we're winding down. We're getting down to the end here this morning. Bethany, what I'd like to have you do is, how about a couple of tips um, on mindset for an investor who's in the business, maybe struggling today for whatever reason? What kind of mindset things could somebody work on?
I think putting your personal physical health and mental health first, like what we were talking about earlier, controlling the first 45 and last 45 minutes of your day is so key. And putting good stuff in your mind. Personal development, thought leaders, leadership principles, faith-based things, just putting that good stuff in. And secondly, surrounding yourself with people that are at the level at which you want to be. And that means, not just money. For me, it's so vital to have that like contribution factor. Contribution is very big for me, but you do need, money gives you options, and having a large amount of wealth to be able to contribute is going to help. People need tangible things. But surrounding yourself with people that are successful and, they have healthy relationships, and they're maybe at the financial level you want to be, and they're giving back, they're generous, and paying for that proximity in some instances. So my husband and I are big fans of like masterminds, going to different masterminds, and getting yourself around people that, and it may be an expensive ticket. One example is a couple years ago, my husband and I went to Grant's event in Miami at Marlin Stadium, and tickets were several $1,000s to sit in the best seats. And we made that investment and thought, we're going to meet some interesting people. And we definitely did. We made a lot of business partners from that event. We met a lot of good friends, people that maybe we don't dialogue with on a consistent basis, but we follow each other on social media. And it's just, they're hustling, they're working hard. We see evidence of that. They're being successful, they're giving back and that sort of thing. So it truly paid off for us, versus sitting in, general admission, where most of the conversations I overheard there were how expensive the food was and they were complaining about it, So yeah, you might have to pay for that proximity. So being okay with that, but I would say that's another big one.
Yeah, I heard a long time ago, money doesn't buy you happiness, but it sure helps you arrive at your problems in style, doesn't it?
Gives you options. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Hey, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Appreciate everything that you had to say and offer. How do people get a hold of you if they have an interest in picking your brain a little bit more, or finding out about some investment opportunities or financial planning opportunities?
Sure. So the easiest place is going to be yourcashflowcouple.com. It's Your Cashflow Couple, and my husband and I have some content on there, our social media profiles, a little bit about our backgrounds, and then on Instagram is probably the easiest way to find me. It's MF as in multifamily boss lady. That's on Instagram.
Any last comments or thoughts you want to leave us with?
I don't think so. This has been fun. I really enjoy this. And again, surrounding yourself with people, Angel and yourself, you're people of contribution, you're forward thinking, you're positive, you're going in the direction, we're all going in the same direction. We could be sleeping in late, watching cartoons, eating a box of donuts right now. So we're making good choices. I do like donuts, actually.
What are you saying? What are you saying exactly? Oh, that's funny. Hey, Carl, if you're listening in this morning, I know there's a few people out on Facebook Live. If you're listening in this morning, I hope you're having a great time. If not, when you listen to this later, you missed it. We had a blast.
Yeah. Oh, Angel asks about the How Money Works seminar we're doing today. So yeah, definitely. What would be the best way to kind of get that link out? Should I share it in the chat? I can do that.
Yeah, you want to share it in the chat?
Sure. Yeah. If anybody would like to attend, please do. Let's see here. Trying to figure out where the fastest way to go would be to get that. Thank you, Angel, for the reminder. Yeah, it's a free event, education, and we will be doing some giveaways of the book too. So definitely come out for that. Here we go.
There it is. Right?
Yeah, this event is on Facebook. There are the links on Facebook, so I'll have to be routed to Facebook to get it to it. But
yeah.
All right.
Okay, they can find you on Facebook though for it. So.
Yep.
All right, perfect. You got that, Angel?
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Bethany. This has been great. Appreciate your time. Thank your husband for his time and service as well. And Angel, thanks for being here. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. So, hey everybody. Again, this was Multifamily Unplugged, Saturday morning, your unpredictable radio show. We were joined by Bethany Smith this morning. Thanks, Bethany, for being here. I will look forward to seeing everybody next week, and have a great holiday Easter.
Yes.